The next few minutes will be the most shocking of your life. And if you're not careful, this could change your life forever. So turn off all notifications because you are about to go down the rabbit hole of one of the greatest mysteries in human history. The government does not want you to know what we are going to tell you today. A transgender woman who is believed to be the world's first was born in Thailand 63 years ago. The very first sex reassignment surgery was performed on her, and she was dubbed the world's first transgender woman. However, after hearing the whole story, many people began to question how transgender she really was. When Porntip was born, she was assigned male at birth. This is because when she was born, the doctor was unable to determine whether or not she was a boy or a girl. She had no external genitalia. In fact, she didn't have anything between her legs, but she did have internal reproductive organs. They couldn't tell if it was a uterus or testicles. Nobody had ever witnessed anything like this before. So they made the decision to raise her as a boy. Throughout her childhood, Porntip struggled with identity issues. She felt as though she were a girl trapped inside a boy's body, even though she had been raised as a man. When she was 21, Porntip met a doctor who specialized in treating intersex conditions. Finally, someone understood what she was going through. After conducting several tests, the doctor came to the conclusion that Porntip had a disorder known as complete androgen insensitivity syndrome, because she had the genetic makeup of a male, but her body was incapable of responding to male hormones. She developed into a female. The only way for her to feel whole was to undergo gender reassignment surgery. At the age of 26, Porntip underwent the first sex reassignment operation in history. Despite the fact that she was unable to produce children, doctors were able to remove her penis and scrotum and reconstruct them into a vagina and labia. It was love at first sight. She was finally in the body of a woman and felt complete. However, her troubles were far from over. Even after undergoing such a drastic transformation, society was unable to accept her. Portia was frequently taunted and called names by strangers. But the worst part was when she went to the bank to open an account. The bank wouldn't open an account for her because her ID said she was a man, but she didn't look like one. Nobody knew what to do with her because she didn't fit in anywhere. Porntip was depressed and eventually attempted suicide. Fortunately, a close friend intervened and saved her life. She refused to let her best friend commit suicide because she had never felt so accepted by another person. Soon after, her friend traveled to America to study medicine, and when she returned to Thailand, she brought Porntip with her. While in America, Porntip became the world's first transgender woman to receive a driver's license. In addition, her friend assisted her in securing a position at a hospital where she worked as a receptionist. Although everything appeared to be going well, she felt a strong desire to meet other transgender people. Unfortunately, at the time, there were no transgender organizations in the United States. But luckily, the internet was invented and she was able to connect with hundreds of other transgender women online. Porntip spent the rest of her life traveling the world, speaking at transgender events and raising awareness of their cause. She became a sensation and received invitations from all over the world, including Australia, Japan, and Europe. However, there was a dark secret that she had been hiding. She had never been completely honest about how she became transgender. This was due to the fact that Thai law prohibited her from disclosing her medical history. This meant she wasn't allowed to tell anyone that she had a disorder known as complete androgenic insensitivity. But why is it such a big deal? What is so bad about being intersex? Well, intersex people can face a lot of problems throughout their lives. They may be bullied, abused, shunned by their families, and even sterilized without their consent. And the worst part is that most intersex people aren't even aware they are intersex. Intersex people have been stigmatized and persecuted throughout history. In fact, many cultures believe that intersex people are cursed by God or evil spirits. As a result, they frequently conceal their true selves in order to avoid being discovered. And the more people who learn the truth, the more likely they are to be discriminated against. This is why Porntip chose to keep her medical history a secret. She didn't want anyone to discover the truth and cause trouble for her. Porntip lived a long life and died peacefully at the age of 63. She is now regarded as a pioneer in the fight for transgender rights. But recently, one of her close friends revealed her dark secret to the entire world. He stated that Porntip was not transgender at all, but rather had a rare medical condition known as complete androgenic insensitivity. This revelation shocked everyone. People began to doubt whether she was transgender or not. Many people expressed their disappointment, claiming that she had deceived them. However, others came to her defense, pointing out that she had always been honest about her medical history and that she had never identified as cisgender. They also pointed out that her case is so rare that only 1 in 200,000 people have it. Furthermore, she had no control over the fact that she was born intersex. In fact, the majority of transgender people are born with a condition known as gender dysphoria, which means that from the moment they can remember, they have felt as though they were born in the wrong body. In Porntip's case, She has always felt like a woman trapped inside a man's body. Therefore, she has always identified as a woman, regardless of her biological sex. So is she a transgender woman, or a woman who was born intersex? Well, that's up for debate. There is no correct answer. However, what is not up for debate is the fact that she was a brave woman who lived her life on her own terms. She was a trailblazer who paved the way for transgender rights and acceptance around the world. Some people still claim that she isn't transgender, but that she was born with a rare medical condition. Others argue that she is transgender because she has always identified as a woman, regardless of her biological sex. But the most important thing to remember is that regardless of what you call her or how you label her, she was a brave woman who lived her life on her own terms. If you're one of the people who believes that she isn't transgender, then I ask you to consider this. Would you be able to live life as a man if you were born with the body of a woman? Would you be able to suppress your feminine side and live a life as a man? Or would you eventually come to the conclusion that you are transgender? If you answered yes, then I think you would understand that Porntip was transgender. She simply felt like a woman, and that's what she chose to identify as. On the other hand, if you don't think that she's transgender, then I respect that. You may never fully comprehend what it's like to be born in the wrong body. But that doesn't mean that her life was unvaluable, or that she did undeserve to be happy. The bottom line is that we should all strive to be more accepting of one another. Regardless of our differences, we should celebrate the diversity of the human experience rather than trying to suppress it. Porntip was born in a small village in Thailand. She was raised as a man, but she always felt like a woman. At the age of 26, she underwent the world's first sex reassignment operation. After her transition, she faced a lot of discrimination and prejudice, but she never gave up hope. She traveled all over the world, speaking to people about transgender rights and acceptance. She is now remembered as a brave and courageous woman who fought for what she believed in. Now it's time for you to make your voice heard. Are you one of the people who believe that Porntip was transgender, or do you think she was just born with a rare medical condition? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories like this one. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.